It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha! This is a very difficult Feedback Friday to decide what to talk about. It has been a very eventful week. A lot of videos got a lot of feedback this week. I just want to plug off the top again. If those of you who didn't see the dialogue options teaser on Wednesday, make sure to check in next Wednesday for the full interview with Ollie Barter, who is a game designer living in Japan and a Forbes contributor. He writes a column on Japanese toys, which is awesome, hence the background in it. I did that in his honor, even though it's in my house already. But I'm really, really excited about this one because he says some amazing things. And he has the ability as a Westerner living in Japan to compare and contrast sort of the two cultures and the two approaches to gaming. And I found it very, very interesting. It might be the best dialogue options yet, which is setting a really high bar. So make sure you check that out next Wednesday. But it was a pretty good week for pretty good week and a pretty crazy week in the same way in discussing the feminism about the video games on the internets. And it was great in the sense that I started the introductory video to my feminist history for gamers thing. I realized I wasn't entirely clear about what the series was going to be because I was trying to keep it under a half hour. But what that series is going to be is trying to give people context. Like I said in the original video, I'm not trying to convince anybody one way or the other. That's not my goal. I don't care if anyone self-identifies as a feminist. I just care that these, issues that are important to me, and I'm not saying that every feminist issue is equally important to me, but the issues that are important to me get a fair chance in people's minds. I don't need people to agree with me. I just think it's completely anti-intellectual to knee-jerk and shut the whole thing out because of the word feminist. And so I'm trying to create a series contextualized for gamers to show sort of where some of the hot buttons came from, sort of the history of it, and to provide a greater context for the movement as a whole, as opposed to, the really loud, radicalized activist wing, because that's not all there is to it. But that loud activist wing doesn't like me very much right now. And I have seen some hilarious flip outs. I thought we had hit the height of absurdity last week when I was accused of being a fat, ugly former ex-stripper. The former ex was deliberate. That was a joke. But it got crazier today. The horseshoe effect is in full effect. This week, it was the outrage warrior camp over at NeoGAF that decided to just go completely off their rockers as far as I'm concerned. It's funny. I'm becoming like the Flemeth of gaming. And it's so funny to me because I'll do something or I'll say something. And it's almost like this artistic process where I watch how people take it and how it changes and it twists it while people, cut it up into bite-sized pieces to make me look as bad as possible or paraphrase it so it sounds utterly awful because they strip all the nuance out of it. The fact that people confuse me criticizing a particular bit of marketing for a game versus the game itself. And if you know anything about me, the marketing of a game and the game itself to me are completely different entities. And the fact that they're still at it 2 years later, it's so funny. And that's why I say I'm like the Flemeth of gaming, because these stories about me keep getting more and more outlandish to the point that I think people think I live in the woods and raise daughters and kill them to preserve my eternal youth. And it's so funny that, and this is a beautiful thing about having these games, is it's so much easier to deal with this crazy stuff when, you know, you can go, what is this? Oh, okay, I have this fictional point of context for my experience right now. It's super duper helpful as far as I'm concerned to sort of identify with characters like that. But I want to read you guys the latest crazy rumor. It is known that she, 1, has harassed domestic abuse survivors. Multiple domestic abuse survivors. 2, made harassing calls that resulted in a trans woman being fired from her place of work. 3, got a gay man arrested on the grounds that he was harassing her. It was the other way around. The charges were dropped when she had no actual case for her defaming him. And 4, repeatedly threatens anyone who disagrees with her or who she deems a threat with lawsuits, even if they make no sense. She is not a good person by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, by the way, I'm also a secret gamergater. That was a choice cut from NeoGAF. I don't understand how these websites that are moderated websites, I'd assume, allow stuff like that out there. That's not expressing an opinion. That is accusing someone of committing a crime, right? Like, harassment is criminal. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's so funny that they accuse me of getting someone in trouble with no evidence, and yet they provide no evidence for my lack of evidence. Like, this is how absurd it's become. And it's so interesting to me because it's not enough for them to disagree with me. People on the internet seem to need some sort of moral reason to go beyond simple disagreement into, well, they're a bad person. And this comes into something I call the nice game. And the nice game is the name I give sort of the passive-aggressive, female-founded bullshit that people do in the modern age. And I say female-founded instead of just female bullshit because more and more and more studies are finding men are engaging in alternate forms of aggressive behavior as well. You can't go up and fight with someone or punch them in the nose anymore. So you have to find this devious backdoor alliance building, secret keeping, all this stuff. Like literally 8th grade stuff. 8th grade stuff people don't move beyond because people are so conflict averse now that they do these crazy things that, you know, because they can't come at someone directly and go, I disagree with you here, 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 and here, like I do. People are so threatened by that direct critique. You know, I won't even call it a criticism. It was a critique because this was the strategic butt covering thing, that the ReBUTTal. I was very proud of that title, by the way. But, you know, that whole tirade came up because somebody else on NeoGAF says, you know, she goes point by point. She doesn't attack her as a person. I think this is okay. She says when she agrees as well as she disagrees. You know, that person lives in this reality. But this other person was so invested in not giving me the time of day. And this is the exact same behavior I wrote about a year and a bit ago about what Anita Sarkeesian's most rabid followers do. It is not enough to disagree with someone. It's not enough to think I'm wrong. They have to destroy my character. And when I saw this, I was just gleeful because this is someone who is suffering so much cognitive dissonance that they have to make this crazy, outlandish, whatever that was, to transfer. It's absolute transference. All that, you know, mental pain from holding two thoughts in their head that contradict each other at the same time. You know, they have to create this absolutely insane lie, multi-part, insane lie. And it's sort of like, I'm surprised I didn't murder a black man behind an Arby's as well. You know, like it's just so nuts because apparently Arby's is a very, very trendy place to murder people, right? But I mean, the only thing that wasn't included in that tirade was something I did to a person of color. And I guess people of color just aren't trendy in social justice circles like that anymore because the people of color are telling off people like that as well. The reason I find this so funny is I don't even know what that could possibly be connected to. Usually when someone makes something up about me, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's, you know, misogyny whack-a-mole, or they are taking something I said and twisting it. They're exaggerating or they're downplaying something. I can sort of see what they warped. I cannot find the base image. I can't find even the beginning of this to even extrapolate where these particular rumors came from. And that's why it's so hilarious. Like, I don't know what's funnier, the idea that I made a trans woman lose her job or the idea that I harassed a gay man and it's somehow relevant that he's gay. I have no idea why, but I'm not an outrage warrior. I mean, now that I think about it, the gay thing is only relevant to them because to them it makes me look like a worse person. It is completely manufactured. But then the story got more interesting. The big bad worst of the worst harassers on the internet, Gamergate, more specifically the message board Kotaku in Action, which is sort of a Gamergate discussion hub, sort of uniformly agreed that was crazy. And I mean, the reason this is so funny is Kotaku in Action collectively has not been my biggest fan. I'm trying not to speak about Kotaku in Action as a monolith because they don't like that. They don't like generalizations. But I have had my ups and downs with many of the people on Kotaku in Action. There were a lot of people who believed some of the right-wing outrage warriors about me. I think more and more they're starting to realize that those people were just muckrakers because they went after too many people, and when you do that, you get found out. But it's so funny to see Kotaku in Action, who, I mean, they do pretty deep dives on things, right? Like you'll usually find somebody in one of those threads who's willing to believe a horrible thing about a person, but everything, the one that makes me laugh is one person says, those claims are insane. No proof of any of it either. What's next? Liana eats babies? And then someone says, I'm not saying she eats babies, but I've never seen her hold a baby without eating it, you know? It's, and then they point out, attacking women on Twitter to protect women on Twitter. I'm sure Orwell would have put that in 1984 if he had thought of Twitter or had nightmares about a massive network. People give away privacy for attention. And the comment I just loved because it's perfect. It sums up the whole thing is, this is less she's wrong and more bitch spoke up against my waifu now, isn't it? And that is, that just sums up the whole thing. It's so absolutely perfect, And then someone else said, I hope someone eventually comes up with a comprehensive list of lies told about Liana so we can line them all up and see how many directly contradict each other. And that's true. Pretty much every bad thing you could possibly say about a person has been said about me at this point. I'm pretty sure. But the one thing that all this name calling does not do is address my actual points. And at the end of the day, that is a huge victory as far as I'm concerned. Because if the frothing at the mouth radical extremes don't like me, and beyond don't like me, they're threatened by me. Because that's the only reason you try to completely character assassinate someone, right? But at the end of the day, they are threatened by me. And I see that as a huge indicator that I'm doing something right. And I take that as an indication that not only am I right, but they are so unable to deal with the fact that I'm right that they have to make something up because they can't actually argue the merits of my argument. And that's fabulous. That's what we need. That's what we need in terms of tackling these issues involving inclusion in gaming. We need facts that stand up under nuclear bomb-worthy scrutiny. I mean, at this point, I'm living in the intellectual fallout wasteland, right? The bombs have all dropped, and now we're just, it's a new world. It's crazy. And this tells me that I'm one of those brands. I'm like a Nuka-Cola or, one of those things like that survived the bombs. I've been here for a minute, that whole thing. And it's validating. I know it sounds strange that people saying horrible things about me is validating, but this sort of thing, when someone completely loses their mind because they can't argue the merits, that's great. That's fabulous. They're still lying. It's no less of a lie than people who attack my professional integrity, but it's the kind of lie that doesn't matter. It's the kind of lie that doesn't hurt in the long run because it's so ludicrous. Like, it is just absurd on its face. And it's sad to me that people have made social justice such a popularity contest that they have to stoop to this kind of stuff. Because to be serious, this doesn't help anybody. This doesn't actually help the world become more tolerant. It is a shining example of intolerance. You want to accuse me of a crime, and criminal harassment is a crime? Go to the cops, present evidence, get me charged. Because that's what you should do. If someone's committed a crime, you should go to the police and you should get that person charged. But anonymous person on the internet, throwing shade about nothing, it's cool to see people who have not been my biggest cheering section. Kotaku in Action has been pretty critical of me, at times unfairly, at times fairly. But to see them sort of unilaterally going, this is insane, is cool. That is a sign of dialogue, and that is a sign of an evolution in the way things are going. And that is a sign that people can learn and grow, and we can come together. We can find common ground. And it's been cool to watch this relationship sort of evolve in that way. So that's it for this week. Have a good weekend. Again, up next week, we're going to have another, hopefully, video on first wave feminism in the feminist history for gamers, and how it's the unresolved issues of the first wave are still relevant to gaming today. And then we've got Ollie Barter coming up Wednesday, and I'm sure by Thursday there will be something else crazy to talk about and laugh about together. But have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.